Okay, graphics on May 6th. We are midway through the week, woohoo! And we are working displacement maps. Probably should have started Photoshop now that I think about it. There it is. I don't know why I don't make a, I should make a little quick select key at the bottom for it. Again, there's a lot of ways to do this. No way is perfect. We just need to find what works best for what we're going to do. Oh my gosh. All of a sudden I just get a whole bunch of messages around this time of the day. So if we need to, I've given you guys a link to Blue Lightning TV, and Marty goes through, and he does a couple of steps that are a little bit different than what I'm going to show you, and his way is very effective. What we're going to do is effective. We just want to make sure we're doing the best for what we can. I want to, there we go. Hit share and pop-up chat. Cool. So you see all my stuff I've done, all my demos that I've been working on, all my little Photoshop things. You can always clean this out if you want to. So right now we are going to do this one. That might not have been the right one. So this is my mask. That's my tattoo layer. And we've already used the displacement on this tattoo layer. And we had talked about it last time so I'm using Alt mouse wheel to zoom in, that simply set, oh, I just put a black dot there. Control Z, undo. I'm trying to use stuff from a different program. Simply put, because my mask, as I apply my mask through, I did the mask of the whole head, which means that this little flyaway piece that goes past my nose, so we're going to drop down the opacity over here, and you can see what I'm doing, right? Just making sure. As I drop down the opacity on the tattoo, and you can see my nose edge, I would trim that away. I would also probably want to do something with the tattoo so that it's not into the facial hair here. And that either is erasing, or I'm going to mess with it, or I'm going to just move the tattoo a little bit. I might rotate it. And I definitely want to take it out from the eye. So let's start with that first. So while it's on its opacity, so I can easily see through it, Control T brings up my transformation box, and I could shrink it, or I'm just going to kind of rotate it, and then inside. So on the outside, I look for that little arrowed U, and then inside click and just drag, and I can reposition. And I can see if that's good. Kind of like it coming through here. That looks better. What I want to do is I want to make sure that my tattoo is bending in with my surfaces. So kind of like this coming through. I'll trim a little bit of it there, like it going into the ear, and then I say, okay, I'm happy with that. I'm going to bring the opacity up full. And then I'm going to go filter, distort, displacement, and I have it stretch to fit. I have repeat edge pixels, and we're just leaving them 10s I hit OK, and it says, what map do you want to use? And I want to look for that displacement map. So I titled it specifically displacement map. Again, this is in my camera roll. That's where all these pictures are staying, is in my camera roll. But if I don't see my displacement map, I want to go back and see where I saved it. Maybe I saved it on my desktop, or maybe it's somewhere else on one of my drives. And so I hit OK, open. And then you see how it warps this now. And it just changed everything because of the fact that it is using that black and white photo to do the displacement. Now I'm going to Alt zoom in again, and you can see here I've got a stray mark. So if I go through, I leave it white, I'm on my displacement layer, I'm on my, I want to invert my brushes. Oops, wait, invert my brushes. And then I can simply come through. Now, the only downside to that is, remember, this is a blurred image because I used it I used it when I was, I gotta think of what I'm trying to say here. I used that when I was making my displacement map. So this isn't clear. That's why this eye is blurry and not this one. I can go to my tattoo layer and I can drop down my opacity a little bit more so I can see it better. Come back into here. So this is all happening on the displacement layer. Now I'm going to invert my colors again. And I'm going to increase my brush size using a bracket. And it brings that back in. Switch my colors. So on this, if it's black, it's going to fill in. If it's white, it's going to take out. So I use X to flip my colors. That's the hotkey. I'm going to trim this back just a little. And if I were to switch this to a little bit of a gray, it's going to have an effect on, it would have an effect on the intensity of it. But remember, I'm only at 47% opacity. I just read your message, so I'm glad you got your picture in. So as I'm coming through here, make sure that this edge is clean. Nice, clean it up again. I went a little too far, so Control-Z, undo, brings this back. You notice how that's making it blur. I come down, I'm gonna zoom this over. And I need to get rid of this piece out here. Now, notice I'm making marks out here and nothing is happening. The reason is, remember, my mask only went to this spot. So what I can do is, I can W for wand, and I can come to that area, and it's just going to select this part, go back into my mask. Now if I erase, it will only erase the part that's in the mask. So I'm going to show you real quick. So I'm on that brush. Oops, I'm on the wrong brush, sorry. Get right to the right thing, click, go back to my mask, hit B for brush, and then when I come out here, nothing happens. But inside of there, something is definitely happening on that edge. So what I'm going to do is, what I want to do is, so if I were to put white, it's going to erase out that part. I don't want to erase out that part. I want to make sure that that's nice and solid in there. Then I'm going to come back down to this layer, E for eraser. I'm just going to slightly erase off this part of the tattoo. Now, nothing up here happens because I'm in my selection. Control D to deselect. And I'm just going to lightly clean up that edge. So now let's zoom back out. Alt mouse wheel out. Take a look at this. and then increase my opacity back up. Oops, oops, I was thinking of something completely different, and I'm on the stamp tool right now. So B for brush tool. Now the one thing I don't like is, I don't like this blur on the eye. Now if I turn this off, the only downside is that my tattoo pieces come back. So I have a couple of choices of how I can fix this. I can transfer my mask, turn this off. Now, this happens when I transfer my mask because my mask is now affecting this picture and only those parts are showing up. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to go Alt, zoom in, and I'm going to W magic wand. I don't need to have it this big. And I'm just going to select this. Oops. And see how it's picking up everything that's in there. So I want to make sure that I don't erase the entire thing. So we're going to go Control D, come up to this image, and we're going to select. And notice how it's letting me do a different style selection because it's not looking at the tattoo, it's not looking at the original face, it's just looking at that eye, and that zone is blurred out. So we're going to come up here and we're going to go Quick Select, and I'm going to take this piece on Quick Select. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to Alt out that side, and I'm good there. I'm going to come in here for Quick Select, and I'm just going to get this part of the eye. And I kind of like that on the eye there, so I'm going to decide to leave that. Might come back and maybe take it off the eyelid. That one, that looks like it would be really painful. So we'll get those spots there. And then all I simply going to do is I'm going to go back to this image and I press delete. Control D to deselect. Those look out of focus when this is turned on because that's my edge. Now, how do I get the rest of my tattoo back? Well, that's really simple. I'm going to Alt, mouse wheel out. You can see my little piece sticking up down here. I'm going to go back to B for brush. And we are going to enlarge. I want to make sure that my box is on the mask. And then my brush, when it's on black, takes that out. So I'm going to invert that so that my brush is on white. And there's my tattoo. And the mask, I use the mask to, I use the blurred image to help me select. And then I've got my tattoo all set out. I want to bring this down just to get it out of the way. Really, I could delete it at this point, but in case we need it, I'm gonna keep it there. And then we're doing pretty good on time, so we're gonna Alt zoom in, and oh my gosh, I gotta move the screen that shows me like all the faces in class was kind of covering things up on me. So this is my color picker. If I wanted to, I could go through and switch different colors on the tattoo. But first, I want to go to channels. And I want to wonder why. If I go RGB, oh, want to be on the tattoo layer when I go to channels. I got my layer mask. You can see how my mask, there's red, and that's because it's showing me the areas of my mask. You can just see the edge in the image here. So that's my layer mask. If I come into here, and I can mess around. Now this is playing with the entire color spectrum. When I go back, my whole image looks that color because I'm playing with my channels. Sometimes you'll use channels to try to push things, to try to push layers inside of what you're doing, and just to see, so this takes red out of it. So the green and the blue makes it a more of a blue shift. And what I'm really looking for here is sometimes I'm looking at like the edge. Let me zoom in a little bit. Making sure my edges look nice and clean. And when I have different colors off, where those colors are turned off, I might be able to see things a little bit cleaner, a little bit neater. I may decide that I just want to try to mess with some of that in there. RGB is all the colors on. So I'm going to come back over here, and now we are going to do a select. And this time I actually want to go up, and I want a magic wand select. I'm on this tool. This way I can get a bigger selection going. Holding down Shift so I can add more. Should be a way for me to I forget the quick way to select everything. And then we can go in and we could just color pick out colors. Instead of doing color pick though, we're gonna use right click, blend options, move this over a little bit, and we can look at some color overlays. So that's grade. Again, move this so we can see. I want to change that tattoo. I can come in here and I can slide. And I can really kind of mess around with how do I want this tattoo to look. Do I want it to be in color? How much do I want to have for my saturation amounts? I can go in and I can actually type in color code if I know. One of the things that we've talked about in class and we want to do again, if I hit this web colors only, this is just stuff that looks good on the internet. Right now, that's what I wanted, is this little exclamation, this triangle with an exclamation point. What that means is that's a warning to us that this color may not be able to be printed properly. So we have this sort of, we'll say a mintish green. And it's saying that most printers don't have the ability to make this color. So we can switch. So again, that's the current color is gray. If I switch it to this, it cannot do that. It cannot go to that color. And it's gonna hunt around until I find a color that it can print. And that's one of the important things that we need to remember is in graphics, graphics look different on different monitors. So you may have your colors, and if the person can't see it through your monitor, how it looks on your monitor could be different depending on the settings of their monitor. The next thing is if someone says, "Ooh, this is the color, it's got to be this color," we would want to tell a client, as a professional, we would want to say, you're not going to be able to print this the exact same color. There's going to be a color shift when it goes to print. And you could move around and try to find something close to that, or we just go boop and say, that's close, that's not. Come out to here and work your slider, and you see it pops up pretty heavily. Web colors should print, and you get this kind of spectrum going through. And again, this is going to try to help us get our colors set for what we want to do. And then this little code down here is something that we could tell a printing company. And actually now you can go to home stores and they can mix paint based on if they have the machine that they can plug it in. They can plug in this 6-digit code and get this color. So you could paint your walls this color. I don't know why you'd want to paint your walls that color. If we do a color overlay, we can do that. We can do some other effects. Again, we can do a satin effect to our guy. I would stay away from the glows just because it's going to, the glows are, it's just not going to do what you want. And definitely don't want to do a drop shadow. Though I will say there are some tattoos out there that are doing shading now. But you can play around with some of these guys. See what happens if I turn on contour edges. See what happens if I pick a texture and if I apply that to it. So you can play around if you want to switch this way. If you want to go through your tattoo, I would, before I warp it, I would probably mess with my colors a little bit. I have it on multiply. I can also come down here. And he says use, I forget which one he used. I'll have to go back and watch the video because he doesn't use multiply. He goes through and he does another event to kind of mess with it a little bit. You can also just drop down your opacity a little if you want to seem a little bit more faded. And then if you do that with multiply, ooh, that's fun. That was color burn, by the way. So you can set this up so it looks a little bit more aged and authentic. So I'm gonna Alt zoom out, watch. There we go. And then I can look and see how everything how it all plays out. This looks a little warpy in here. And if I look at my original tattoo, dragon tattoo, open this up. So it's getting a little bit distorted in there. Some of it is, I really should clean out those lines that I had. I can always use just part of it, but the face looks good. This gets kind of funky, this little piece here, which is it the whisker? There's the whisker. Oh, that's the horn. Yeah, this is getting really distorted. This section, here we'll lasso it. That piece in there is getting really distorted as it comes up. So I should look at maybe my displacement map again and maybe kind of clean up my displacement map because we did it kind of fast. And I came through here and did really quick strokes. And I think what we're seeing is instead of it being a solid head, is some of those extra strokes I did left bumps. And as this comes up, it's distorting that way. And I distorted the image more than once. So every time I distort it, it bends it and it bends it again. So we can stop that. So let's go through our time frame real quick before we end today. And we are on the 6th. So once you have your face and you do your black and white, switch it to black and white, and you make your distortion, your displacement template. The video, if you watch this video again, or if you watch Marty's video, Marty's only 7 minutes, 7.5 minutes. And you can probably, I'd say in a good hour, you should be able to have a cleaned up tattoo, and you should have your displacement map. So I would say by Friday, if you spend an hour if you spent another 30 minutes today, an hour Thursday, an hour Friday, you could have your tattoo done on your wrist. Then next week, we're going to look at, we have, we want to use our displacements I have to add in that stuff still. So we're going to, I put on the 22nd, just the kind of steps to go through for doing your displacement. And I thought I put in there an assignment that says you're going to pick 2 other things from our list. So it might be you're going to take your map, or you're going to make another map, and you're going to use a word generator to generate words and make a portrait out of words. Heck, let's just share screens and make this simple. So we're both looking at the same thing. Move this out of the way. Move this out of the way. So when we're looking through this, you're going to pick 2 from this list. Make a text portrait, do a double exposure, wrap text or pattern around an object. This is pretty much the same thing as the tattoo. Create a new fashion by wrapping texture or pattern around clothing. So when I say object here, I don't mean you. I mean, we're going to add it to something. So like maybe a water bottle, you're going to make your own label. You're going to wrap it around a desk. You're going to wrap it around an automobile. That's what I mean by object. So not you. This is definitely, it's going to wrap on clothing, and then you're going to create a dispersion image. And I've given you some videos and examples of them. So this is using a monarch butterfly pattern, so you would use your displacement to make the dress. You would have to have the pattern. These patterns you can make yourself. You don't have to, oh man, it's right under there at that point. You don't have to search the internet, but you can search the internet. So I have a couple of monarch butterflies because people like to use those in fashion. The dispersion is, and this takes you to the Google document. So here we have the person, and then you have this little pattern happening, and it looks like they're fading out to it. We are going to next week look at a graphic artist. I think we've talked about him, Seb. Or maybe I used him in another class. I don't see him down there. So I'm going to introduce you to a new artist next week. And that's going to be part of our final week too, is we're going to evaluate one of that person's pieces. But he does some of these. Probably the best example we can see of dispersion was the milk commercials, where you see people, they're drinking, they're transparent, and as they drink milk, they fill up with milk like they were a glass. Or the things where you see people eat stuff and then it slowly fills them in. Advertising likes to do those kind of effects. Double exposures. Double exposures are basically taking 2 images and combining them into one. And then this is the text warp. So that's me and my dog. And this is just some of the things, and I use this message repeatedly, and I rotate it and overlapped it in Photoshop to make myself a good pattern. And then using a displacement map, I applied it over his body as part of the displacement. So tattoo first, and then 2 other displacements. And then as we're looking at our calendar, that means that next week, and it will become faster every time you do a displacement. You can use the displacement map for probably 2 projects at most. So like if you're going to do a tattoo going across your wrist, you could also probably use that for like the word warp, or you could use that as your dispersion, or your double exposure. You could use all that the same. And then after that, you'd have to find something to do one of the other ones. If you do all 3 very similar, it's no big deal. But that's going to get us through the 15th. 15th is last new day for seniors. For us, what we're going to do is by the 20th, I'm going to start grading all of these. And on the class on the 20th, or next week, I'm going to introduce you to an artist, a graphic artist. And then on the 20th, we'll have the assignment to take, I'll give you a selection of his works, and you're going to pick one and you're going to kind of evaluate it, as in, what do you think of it aesthetically, its value, its visual value, and then you're also going to try to list out what do you think he did to make that happen? What steps did he do in Photoshop? And then we're done. And that's it in a nutshell. Cool, cool. All right.